2025 is turning out to be a year where shotguns refuse to stay in their lane. For decades, scatterguns have carried the same reputation: heavy, hard-kicking, and built for either ducks or door breaching with very little in between. That image just got shredded. A new wave of next-gen designs has landed, and they don't just tweak the old formulas. They rip the rulebook to pieces. Lighter frames, recoil systems that feel almost like cheating, toolless maintenance tricks, and tactical features borrowed straight from rifles. This isn't Granddad's duck gun anymore. These are the shotguns that leave seasoned shooters shaking their heads in disbelief. Today, we're looking at 6 standouts that outshine the competition in ways nobody saw coming. Each one has a feature or a quirk that could shock even the most jaded gun owner. Let's break them down before the rest of the world catches on. The first shotgun on this list feels like someone at Benelli finally got tired of hearing people call their pumps bricks. The Nova line has always been rugged, dependable, and maybe just a little too beefy for the average shooter. Then, 2025 arrived, and with it the Nova 3, which shaved weight, streamlined its action, and pulled off a trick that almost no pump action has managed before. It feels quick. Not just good for a pump quick, but fast enough that seasoned 3-gun competitors are raising eyebrows. The big story here is the polymod monolithic design. Instead of bolting together separate parts for receiver and stock, Benelli fused them into one solid polymer shell. Think of it like the chassis of a race car compared to an old pickup frame. The result is a shotgun that weighs about a pound less than the last generation, and yet doesn't flex or rattle when you cycle it. Pick it up, and the first thing that comes to mind is, wait, where's the rest of it? It's light, but not flimsy. And that's a dangerous combination for anyone on the wrong end of the muzzle. Then there's the shortened pump cycle. Benelli claims it's about 14% faster, and in practice, it really does translate into less wasted motion. If you've ever run a traditional pump, you know the feeling. Long, clunky strokes that feel like rowing a boat. The Nova 3 cuts that down to a snappy slide that snaps right back into battery. In a defensive scenario, that kind of speed isn't just convenient. It could be the edge between clearing the chamber in time or fumbling in the dark. One shooter at SHOT Show compared it to switching from an old Remington 870 to this thing. It feels like the 870's fat cousin just went on a diet and started running marathons. That's about right. It's still unmistakably a pump, but now it's athletic, nimble, and far less punishing on long days at the range. And because it's Benelli, they didn't stop at just trimming weight. The Nova 3 has a reworked loading port that's beveled for faster reloads, plus MLUX slots to mount lights, grips, or whatever flavor of tactical gear your heart desires. The versatility is real. It's as comfortable in a duck blind as it is sitting in a cruiser or on a competition stage. The shock factor? A pump action that actually feels modern. For years, semi-autos stole the spotlight with their speed and upgrades, but the Nova 3 proves a pump can still evolve. Call it leaner, meaner, and unexpectedly slick. If you thought pumps were stuck in the past, this one will slap that idea right out of your head. Every shotgunner knows the feeling. A few boxes of shells in and your shoulder feels like it's been sparring with a heavyweight. That's where the Retay ACE comes in. The letters stand for Air Control Extreme, and the whole design is built around taming recoil without adding bulky gadgets or ugly muzzle brakes. The ACE is inertia-operated, so it stays cleaner than gas guns and cycles reliably even in nasty field conditions. But unlike the old-school inertia designs that are famous for their mule kick, Retay engineered a system they call Air Control, paired with their Inertia Plus bolt. The result is smoother cycling and, according to plenty of reviewers, about 30% less felt recoil. That's not marketing fluff. Shooters who normally tapped out after a dozen high-brass loads were finishing entire boxes with a grin instead of a bruise. It isn't just about comfort. Reduced recoil also means faster follow-up shots and better accuracy under pressure. One hunter described dropping 3 geese in rapid succession because he wasn't fighting the gun between shots. That's the kind of real-world difference you can't appreciate until you run it yourself. The ACE comes in multiple gauges, 12, 20, even 28, for hunters who want options. And it takes standard Benelli Creo Plus chokes. Fit and finish are what you'd expect from a premium European shotgun. Clean machining, smart ergonomics, and a comb pad that cushions without feeling spongy. What makes it shocking is the way it flips the inertia gun stereotype on its head. These were the guns you bought if you valued lightweight and reliability, but you paid for it with sore shoulders. The Ace keeps the good parts and strips out the punishment. For anyone who has written off inertia shotguns as too punishing, the Ace will be a revelation. It's still simple, still rugged, but suddenly civilized. And that unexpected civility, coming from a platform notorious for recoil, is exactly what earns it a spot on this next-gen list. Budget shotguns usually come with a reputation: rough machining, stiff actions, and fit so loose it rattles like a toolbox in the back of a pickup. That's why the TriStar Raptor II turns heads. It breaks every rule about what a cheap scattergun is supposed to feel like. This second-generation Raptor is a gas-operated semi-auto with a redesigned action that runs cleaner and cycles smoother than the original. The barrel is chrome-lined for durability, something you'd expect on a gun twice the price. Controls are oversized, the loading port is beveled, and the charging handle has been beefed up so you don't need gorilla fingers to run it. These little touches add up to a shotgun that feels far more refined than its sticker suggests. And the sticker is the real kicker. Around $600. That puts it in the same territory as a lot of entry-level pumps. Yet here you're getting a semi-auto with features pulled straight from the tactical playbook. Most people don't expect smooth cycling or competition-ready ergonomics at this price point. Pull the trigger and the Raptor II proves them wrong. One shooter summed it up perfectly after a weekend run. It feels like a poor man's Benelli, but without the poor part. That's the shock factor here. You walk in expecting budget compromises, and you leave wondering how TriStar managed to pack so much performance into such a modest package. The Raptor II isn't trying to outmuscle the flagship Italians or replace your high-end competition rig. What it does is make next-gen features accessible for new shooters, hunters, or anyone who wants a reliable semi-auto without spending rent money. This thing is a revelation. It's proof that innovation doesn't always come wrapped in a $2,000 price tag. Sometimes it shows up in an affordable gun that just works better than you thought possible. The Raptor II delivers that surprise in spades, and that's why it earns its spot on this list. I've always had a soft spot for Mossberg. And not just because half the cops I've known had one riding shotgun, literally, in their cruiser. The company has built its reputation on designing scatterguns you can beat, abuse, and still trust when your life hangs on the trigger pull. The 590R and the 590A1 Pro take that no-nonsense DNA and give it a modern hybrid twist that makes even veteran AR guys raise an eyebrow. Here's where things get interesting. The 590R ditches the old-school tube for a detachable box magazine, which means fast reloads without fumbling shells in the dark. For shooters raised on AR-15s, that muscle memory of slapping in a mag feels natural. Combine that with the rotary AR-style safety, and suddenly you've got a pump-action shotgun that bridges the gap between tactical rifles and traditional scatterguns. It feels less like jumping disciplines and more like carrying a familiar tool with a much bigger punch. Then there's the modularity. Mossberg didn't just slap a mag well on a pump gun and call it innovation. They gave these hybrids the full tactical wardrobe: Picatinny rails ready for optics, beveled loading gates for smoother handling, Cerakote finishes that laugh at rust, and adjustable stocks to fit anyone from a lanky SWAT operator to your short buddy who's just there for home defense practice. It's the kind of platform that grows with you. Whether you're bolting on lights, red dots, or a door-breaching muzzle brake just to freak out your range pals. Reliability? Let me tell you a story. A reviewer once buried a 590A1 in mud, gave it 2 hard pumps, and the damn thing still went bang. Try that with half the semi-autos on the market, and you'll be stuck holding an expensive paperweight. Mossberg has always been about building workhorses, and the R Pro hybrids prove that toughness doesn't have to mean outdated. And for anyone thinking pump shotguns are relics that haven't evolved since Granddad's duck blind, this thing slaps you across the face with proof otherwise. This isn't your granddad's duck gun, unless he was on a SWAT team and liked his scattergun tricked out like an AR. It's the perfect crossover for tactical shooters stepping into the world of shotguns. And it reminds the rest of us that pump action doesn't mean stuck in the past. The 590R and 590A1 Pro stand as Mossberg's bold answer to the future of close-quarters firepower. The Weatherby Element has always been that shotgun you'd see in the rack at your local shop, priced just right, sitting quietly between the heavy hitters. The original model earned a reputation as a solid, no-nonsense, inertia-driven semi-auto. But in 2025, Weatherby decided it was time to elevate the Element into something far more interesting. Enter the Element II, a shotgun that keeps the working man price tag but sneaks in features you'd normally expect on higher-end rigs. The first thing you'll notice is the oversized controls in the field, especially when your fingers are cold or you're wearing gloves. Fumbling around with tiny buttons is a quick way to ruin a good day. The Element II fixes that. The bolt handle, bolt release, and safety are all enlarged, giving you that confident "I've got this" feeling every time you run the gun. It's the kind of detail most companies overlook until shooters complain. But Weatherby got ahead of the curve. Then there's the toolless recoil spring removal. Anyone who's ever wrestled with cleaning a shotgun knows what a pain recoil system can be. Here, you can strip the spring out without a single tool. It makes maintenance ridiculously fast. And when your shotgun is this easy to keep clean, it stays reliable longer. That's a practical, everyday upgrade. Nothing flashy, just smart. The loading port is widened, making it smoother and quicker to top off shells. Hunters, clay shooters, or even competitors in local 3-gun matches will appreciate how much faster and less clumsy reloads feel. The gun also comes choke-ready with cryo-style options, so you can fine-tune performance across different shooting roles. Price-wise, the $669, $799 range makes the Element II one of the most budget-friendly next-gen shotguns on the market. You get a firearm that punches way above its weight, without the intimidation of a $2,000 tag. In fact, it's this balance of affordability and innovation that makes the Element II a sleeper hit. It doesn't scream, "Look at me," the way some tactical models do. Instead, it quietly delivers features that make every outing easier and every shot more satisfying. And that's where the surprise factor comes in. Owners who thought they were just picking up a reliable mid-tier shotgun end up realizing they've got a piece of kit that could hang with much pricier guns. The Element II might not wear the crown of flashiest release at SHOT Show 2025, but it's the one that sneaks up on you and earns your respect. The Beretta 1301 has always had a cult following among serious shooters. Fast, reliable, and light enough to maneuver in close quarters. It quickly earned its place in the patrol cars of law enforcement and the gun safes of folks who like their home defense tools to cycle like a Ferrari engine. But 2025 brought us the Mod 2, and this upgrade isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about refining every weak spot until the whole package feels unstoppable. One of the biggest gripes with earlier 1301 models was the stock, under stress, with thousands of rounds downrange. Some shooters managed to crack or flex it. Enter the chisel stock, tougher and stiffer than anything Beretta has put on a tactical shotgun before. This isn't a cosmetic swap. It's the kind of reinforcement that lets you run drills, slam it against barricades, or drop it in a muddy match and keep shooting without a second thought. Then there's the handguard upgrade, developed with help from Retay Industries. This is a company known for listening to hard-use shooters, and the result is a guard that laughs at heat. Long strings of fire no longer leave your support hand cooking. Add oversized controls, bolt release, and charging handle that are impossible to miss under stress. And you start to realize the Mod 2 is built to keep your head in the fight instead of fiddling with small parts. Capacity sits at 7+1, which is more than respectable for a semi-auto tactical platform. The gas system smooths out recoil so well that even lighter shooters can handle it comfortably, and yet it still cycles reliably with buckshot or slugs. That combination of soft shooting and wide ammo tolerance is what makes this gun so damn appealing. On the range, I saw someone run the Mod 2 through a rapid-fire drill. They weren't the fastest shooter in the squad, but the 1301 made them look like they'd been training for years. That's what this shotgun does. It elevates your game simply by getting out of your way. The MSRP hovers around $1,899, which puts it firmly in the premium tactical category. But here's the thing. This isn't just a shotgun. It's Beretta's answer to every critique that's been leveled at the platform, and it answers with confidence. This is why the 1301 Mod 2 earns a place on any serious shortlist of next-gen shotguns. It doesn't shock with wild gimmicks. It shocks with how refined and unbreakable it feels. And that's exactly the kind of surprise that leaves veteran gun owners nodding in approval after their first magazine. At the end of the day, These next-gen shotguns prove that the scattergun world isn't stuck in the past. They're smarter, faster, tougher, and full of surprises. If you loved this breakdown, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite pick, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the guns shaking up 2025. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.